last time when we left off, we had the functionality to create a poll, right? We had this much where we could create a poll, add and remove options and save it, right? So this time we have expanded on our application and added more functionality. I added functionality to view a poll and also to submit a poll response or poll result, right? So I'll start with the first. I'll start with the new APIs we created. So last time we just had this folder, this polls folder, and we had just APIs to save the poll that we created through the UI and get a specific poll by poll ID. So this time we created the poll results table, and we have the same sort of APIs to get all of our poll results and to save a poll result and then get all the poll results for a specific poll, right? So let me start with the models. So this is our model, like we talked about last time, the Mongoose library that allows us to connect to MongoDB. And so we're using that same Mongoose library, and we're defining the APIs and the model and different structure basically for this new table. So the new table we're creating is called poll results, and this is the schema for it. We have a poll ID, which is a string, and then we have a response, which is a string. So our poll ID is the primary key of our polls table, and our response is basically which option they selected. For example, like if I say what is my favorite color, and I say blue, red, different things like that, right? So if I save, if I'm the user and I'm saving this poll, then that is what's going to go in my response. So since we already have that functionality, let me show you. So if I click Pani Puri and save, then for this specific poll ID, my response of Pani Puri will be saved. And then we've also added timestamps true. So that means that each poll result will also get a created and updated timestamp. Okay. So and then we talked about this last time. It is setting the virtual field for ID, so it's auto-generated. We've done that. And then this is also the same. Or this is okay. This is a little different. Last time we have, if we look at the code for polls, then we go to models. We did find by ID, and then we would pass in the ID of the poll. But this is the poll results table, and we're passing in the poll ID. So this ID is like a reference to the polls table. So we're trying to pull all the results using the poll ID, reference key type. I mean, this is NoSQL, so there's no concept of like foreign key and reference key. But basically, just want to say this ID will have a value in the polls table. Okay. So then we've created this poll results table, and then we've also created the function for list. This will just list all the values in the table, and this is our find by poll ID function that we're exporting, and then based on the poll ID we pass in, it'll return all the results for that specific poll ID. And then this is our function to save a poll result. All right. So well, let's start at the config. So this is the starting point for the API. Let's say we want to save a pull result, so it'll come here. Then it'll call the insert function on pull results controller. So we go here, we see, okay, pull results controller has this insert function, and what does it do? It calls the create pull result with our JSON request, and it calls the model. So we go over here, we see, okay, here is the function create pull result. It'll take the JSON structure for the pull result, it'll save that to the table. Alright, and then going with this, same way, we are calling the get API, which calls the list function in the controller. So we go here, we have this list function, and it calls the model list function. And this is our model list function. And what the controller is doing is parsing the JSON request and sending the arguments to our list function in the model. And then the last one, get all the pull results based on the pull ID. So then we go to the controller, it parses the request, and it sends in the pull ID to our function. We go here, find by pull ID, and it'll retrieve our results. Okay? So that is the 3 new APIs that we created this time. So, not too much more. We created 1 new table, and we created 3 APIs. So now we have 2 tables in our MongoDB database. We have polls. Here. We have this table called polls, and then we have this table called poll results. All right. And then we have, we have 3 APIs for the polls table. Create a poll, get all the polls, and then get a poll based on the specific poll ID. And then we have another 3 APIs. Save a poll result, get all the poll results, and then get the poll results based on a specific poll ID. All right. And again, this poll ID refers to the polls table. All right, and then now that we've created these new APIs, how do we start using them? So for that, we go to our app.js. Last time we created this polls router. Now we added a poll results router to the new file that we created. And then at the end here, we're also using that. So we have poll results router.routes config, and then we pass in the app variable. All right. So that was the 3 new APIs that we added. All right. So and then we can also view. Okay, if we want to. This is the deployed code, but if we want to see an example. Poll results. Yeah, we can use this. And this is showing some examples of poll results that have been saved. Let me show you this. This is also a good example. All right. Let me format a little bit. Okay. So you can see an example. This is what the poll results table has. It has the poll ID, and then it has our response, and then it has a created at timestamp and updated at timestamp. Okay. That's an example of the response. And then we have insert poll results and then poll ID. And as we explain the new components in the UI, I'll also go back to the APIs. All right, so now let's go back to the UI. I think this has some more drastic changes, right? So, last time when we started, we had defined all of our code in the app, app.js file, right? So one of the big benefits of React is, developing components, right? So what we did is the code that we created last time for creating a form, we took that out of here and we created a for create poll we created a file structure poll create and then poll form.js. In this poll form.js we put our original code that we had to create the form, right? This is what we had last time. These are all the different functions that we use, right? But we've put it in a separate file now. And then this time also we introduced something called React Router. Let me alright. So this is an example of like, okay, what is React Router? And then basically what you can do is, based on the paths that are in your application, you can route to different components, right? So we're making use of React Router, and same way we have to do npm install React Router DOM to use it, that we have done in our application. Okay. So coming back here, so in our app.js now we're using React Router. We're using all these different components from React Router DOM library. And then the first thing I did is I added some navigation. So I created 3 buttons, and those 3 buttons will take you to either the component to create a form, to list the form, or in the future to view the results of a form. All right. So that's what these 3 buttons are. This button will take us to the screen to create a form. And this button will take us to the screen to basically select a form and then view a form. And then in this screen we can also save a result. Okay, so so if you can see, if you click the first button, and that is the add icon button, right? So we're getting that icon from Material UI icons, the plus sign add icon. If you click that, it takes you to the create route. So see, you can see in our screen it says /create. So our React Router knows that if you do go to create, you need to load the poll form component. Same way, if you click the create icon that we see here, the pencil, it takes us to kind of submit a result for a form. I don't know if that was the right choice of icon, but I thought this was appropriate. This is to view our results. This is to create a new form, and this is to submit a questionnaire or for a form, right? So and there's two different ways we can also go to that. We can, if we don't know the poll ID, we can click list and then we can get the poll ID. Or if we do know the poll ID, it'll take us directly there. So let's say if we have, this is the link that we would pass to other something view and then poll ID. Oh, yeah. second. You go here, here. All right, there we go. Okay, this is if we want to view, and then yeah. All right. So okay, whatever. Coming back to what I wanted to show. If we go to list view and then the poll ID, this is where we get basically this is the form that we have previously created, and then we can view it here and answer and submit results. Okay, so we can, let's say we'll start from here. We'll create a new form. Yeah, what is my favorite color? Blue, red, green. Alright, and then we'll save this. Okay, now that has been saved. Then we'll go here and we'll try to find it. Okay, we have it here at the bottom. What is my favorite color? Blue. And then we can save this result now. Alright, so coming here, so how did we get to each screen, right? So first we went to create, that took us to pull form component, and then we went to list, and that took us to the pull list component. So coming here, we have the pull list component. It is also using React Router. What it's doing, first thing, there's like this function called use route match that we're using to get the URL of where we are currently in our application. Okay. All right, and what we have done is we also have a router that, okay, if you click on an item in the list, right, that we had before, it'll load the poll view component for that item. All right. So what are we doing here? We are creating, this is kind of, I think, a big feature of React too, right? You can iterate through a list and then display components doing that. So, this is a new component we have created this time. Let me go through kind of some of the state we're using. First, we have a variable called selected that we are saving to our React state, and we're defaulting it to false. This means that we have not selected any item in our list so far. And then we're also creating a state variable called list, and that is going to hold basically the list of poll titles that we have retrieved from our API. And this is the fetch polls API. That is what we're going to use to get the list of all the poll titles and poll information, and that we had written last time, right? So we call this, and we're saying limit 100, and we get the results, and we return the response.json. And if something fails, we'll this is chained, right? So we'll return the response.json, and then the next we'll say, okay, the result succeeded, and this is our data. And we're just adding some filter to make sure that our data is are correct, that we don't have any empty items in it. And then we're calling the React hook set list to update our list variable with this new list. All right. And then we call this use effect React hook. And what that does is it'll call fetch polls, and it'll retrieve the results from our API when we first load that poll list component. All right. So what we are doing here is we're using the state, and it's saying if we haven't selected anything, then display the entire list of poll titles. Okay. And then basically for each item in the list, the list item, this is a component from Material UI. Same thing with list item text. And you can see we've imported them in the beginning. And then what we're doing is for each list item we have an on-click handler, and we're also displaying the poll title and the list list text, right? List item text. So what happens when we click handle change? It'll set, okay, now we have selected something, and set that equal to true. And then we're also, for every item, we are also sending the poll ID. So like each list thing has each list component has a link with the poll ID. So when you click the item, it'll go to this URL, right? As we saw, list view with the poll ID. So it'll load that component, right? So we created this poll list component, which what it does is it retrieves all the polls from our MongoDB table, and it displays them in a list. And once we click on an element, it'll load it. It'll load the poll view component, and it'll hide the list. Okay, so this is the second component we created. Poll view, or I mean technically third, but we just wrapped this code from last time in a component. But yeah, so this is the code that we had last time. Then we created this component called poll list, and then we created a new component also called poll view. And this is the component where we can view the poll, and we can submit a like an answer. So we can create an entry in that poll results table. So this is a function that React Router gives us called useParams. And what that does is it'll take the param that's at the end of the URL, right? This is our poll ID. And it'll set that to the poll ID variable. All right, and then we're using some state. We have a variable called value, and this is just saying, okay, what should we default the selection to? So in the beginning, we're just saying sample. Same thing with poll. This is the poll object, right? A poll object will have, okay, what is the prompt and what is the list of options. So this is what we just have in the beginning as our defaults. Okay, and then if we go down here, that we're using this use effect again, and we're saying, okay, fetch the poll for this particular poll ID. So we go here, fetch poll. This is the API that we created last time. Polls / poll ID, and we're calling get on that, and we'll return a JSON object. And then once we get that JSON object, we're setting that to, we're creating this new poll object, and we're setting the data, such as like data.id, prompt, options, and we're setting that to the state using the set poll function, and the set value, we're saying, okay, by default select the first option, right? So we're creating that form using components from Material UI, form control, form label, radio group, button, different things like that. And then what we're doing is the same thing. We're looping through the list of options and creating the radio buttons for each one. And on each radio button, we have that on change. So what happens is, like when you select a different one, that will set the state, right, this value to that new selection, right? And then we also added a button to save, which we see at the bottom, right? We click save. That'll create an entry in poll results. So so how does that work, right? So we have this handle submit click function. This is the handle submit click function, right? and we're doing a post request on poll results, right? This is the new API that we created this time. So we go to poll results, we go to routes, and we do post. So what does that do? It inserts a new record in the poll results table. So we you go back here, and this is the body that we're sending. We have a option for poll ID, and our response is the value, right? So same thing, we send the request, we get a response back, and we'll say we succeeded. All right, so that was the new functionality that we created this time. And then the next functionality that we want is, okay, when I click on this, this results, right, /results, it should allow us to view the results for a particular poll. Okay. So let's see, how would we set up the route for that, right? So first thing we'll do, we will go to app.js. Sorry, not that one. We'll go to this app.js, and we'll create a route for results. And then let's have it load the poll results component. Alright, so we now have to create a new component called poll results. Alright, so we go here, poll, we'll create a new folder, call it results. Alright. Create a new file. Okay, we have this file. Poll results. Right. We created this component called poll results, and for now, I think we can do something like we'll just display the poll results, right? Well, in a list or something like that. Okay, so how do we do that? First thing we'll do this, we'll fetch the polls, right? So okay, let's show that. So right now this component has the same exact code as poll list, and yeah, let's try to load that. part, but okay, there's an issue we need to fix. It's saying, okay, it can't resolve this. So we go to our app.js and, oh, okay, this is the issue. We named our folder results. Okay, so we'll save that. Okay, then it says, okay, we have another issue. Poll list not defined. So let's go to the beginning. Saying line 77 in poll results. Yeah, oh, whoops. Alright, exporting the right name. Okay, so now if we click on results, let's see, what do we have? We click on results, now we're getting all the lists. Okay, what is my favorite color? Well, this will return, right now, it'll show that poll for that poll ID, right? But we don't want to show the poll, we want to show basically the results for that. So we'll do this, okay? We'll add something. We'll create. So when we click on it, we don't want to go to poll view. We want to show the results. So let's create one more component, not poll view. We'll create the component. We'll say, all right. So new folder. Say graph. All right. And we'll create this new file under graph. Poll result graph. Okay, we have poll result graph.js. Alright, we'll create this component called poll result graph. Okay, and it will be under graph. Okay, poll result graph. We created that component. So right now let's just copy over what we have in poll view. Okay, we'll name it poll result graph. Alright, so what do we need for our state? We need our poll ID, and then we don't need value. And we, what do we want? We want basically a list of options, and we want an basically we want the count for each of those options, right? So we'll say we'll have let's create this basically, let's create two state variables. One is, we'll name it options, and set options. All right. And the other one will be results. Or no, let's do it. Let's make our structure a dictionary. So we have our dictionary, and for our key will be the option name, and the value will be the count. Set result data. Set result data. All right, we'll have this. We don't need this handle change. Okay, so fetch poll results. So what do we want to do? We want to go to our API, which is poll results, and then we'll put the poll ID, right? Poll results, and then we have our poll ID. So, yep, that looks good. Okay, so now once we retrieve the data, what will we do? We'll do new. We'll create this structure with ID and options. All right, we'll create this dictionary right now. So new poll. Okay, so for we'll say for option in data, if option is already in new poll, then we do we'll just increment the count. Else we'll do new poll of option is equal to 1. Alright, so we'll create our data structure there, our dictionary, and then we'll do set result data to new poll. Alright, and then we'll also log the result data. Let's name it new poll result. Okay, so on loading our component, that is what will happen. We don't need this handle submit click. Alright, so what do we want to do? We can let's kind of go, let's create a list. And yeah, let's make sure we import all this. Don't need all this. Okay. Yeah, we don't need this. So we're creating a list, and we're going to map our dictionary. We'll do that. We don't need link. And then in our what we're trying to display, we'll do this. So when we're mapping, this will be the key. Okay, result data. Okay. And then we don't need any on-click handler. So yeah, what we're trying to do here, when we load the pull result graph component, first we'll get all the pull results for that particular ID, and then we'll display them as a list for now. Okay, so let's see. Theoretically that seems fine, but let's see, what is, okay, we already have our first issues. It says option is not defined, line 34. For option in data. So okay, data is going to be a okay, here. Let's look at where pull results API sends us. Alright, so we'll click here first. Let's go with the favorite color. So this is the pull API, right? And then let's look at some the API for it. So we type in pull results and then the ID. Right. So we want pull results for that. All right. Let's try to get pull results in general. Okay. Pull results for our particular pull ID. Internal server error. Oh, okay. So let us try for this. So right now what's happening is we're just getting pull results in general. And we need to fix our API to get the pull results for a particular pull. Alright, let's try to debug that a little bit. Okay, so we got alright. So let's take this particular poll ID. It says poll result dot find by poll ID is not a function. So you go here, we'll do get by poll ID to our controller. Get by poll ID, and then we'll do find by poll ID on our model. Alright, then we have find by poll ID. We're calling it on poll result. This poll result dot find by ID is not a find by poll ID is not a function. So for some reason, this function is not registering to our poll result. Okay, let's try to figure that out. So here we're doing the same thing. We have find by ID, right? And then we're calling it on our poll object, which we have defined here. Same thing, we've defined our poll results object there. Here, well, let's do find by ID. It says cannot read property then of undefined. So then we go to line 27, poll results controller. Alright, so that means that find by poll ID did not return what we wanted. Alright. Cannot read property then of undefined, so then we have to go to here. It says resolve is not defined, and line 45. So yeah, let us look at this again. So find by ID, then we need to do something like this. Not done result and result to JSON. So yeah, there's some issue when we're trying to retrieve all the results based on the poll ID. So I felt like debugging is also a pretty big part of programming. So I wanted to show some debugging while we're working on the code also. So okay, how do we use? So the way I would try to figure out more about this issue is I'd go to the documentation for Mongoose. And then I tried to figure out, okay, what are the different functions that we have that we can use. See example, like these are functions that they've given us. Query, right? So this is what we need. Get, find. The one that we are using here is called find, right? So we go, okay, find. This is the type of function we're trying to use, and it'll return whatever like the results are from our MongoDB table. So we have find here, we pass in this, and then the callback. So for us, the callback is this then function. And what we're trying to do here is return the JSON value of the result. But for some reason that is not working, right? It says cannot read property to JSON of null. We can do something like find one, right, for testing. Let's try that. Oh, do we save our code? Yeah, we saved our code. So what happens when we make this request? We go here and it says, okay, cannot read property to JSON of null. So it's saying, okay, it can't find that poll ID. So let's try that. Let's add some print statements. Okay, so what happens when we try to run it? It says at line 43, it can't read the result. But we're trying to see, okay, did it read the poll ID correctly, right? So let's go up one level. is it reading the poll ID correctly? Ah, that's why. Right? We want... there we go. So we figured out our issue. Okay. So let's start our code again. So we have this, and we want to find the parameter for that. So we go here, and our param is poll ID. So the issue was that we weren't passing our data in correctly to the API. So we need to pass it in something like this, in this method, this way. And we see that it's returning results correctly this time. These are all different results. Okay? So let's go back to our UI and make those changes. Right? Okay. So we were trying to go to our poll result graph. And in our poll result graph, we want to, get this, use this API. So we have to do it in the right way, which we realized was the issue. So let's go to poll view as an example. All right. So polls, and then we want to pass that in correctly, right? So poll results, the issue we saw when we were trying to read it, is we need to pass in our parameter like this. So okay, let's go to poll result graph.js, and we have some options. We have some issues. It says, okay, new poll is not defined. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, let's wait for it to load. So okay, let's look at what we're trying to do. We want to loop through our data array. So we'll say, okay, let option equal 0, option is less than data.length. Okay. So we go to our results, and then we go to the poll we created. Oh, okay. Let's see. What is the issue? It's saying it cannot map our dictionary. So okay, what we need to do is we need to map the keys, not the dictionary. So we do result.map dot keys. And then we want the keys of result data. So let's try that. We go here, we'll click what is my favorite color. Then we see, there we go. And we want to do, we'll do something like this. Let's try to do something like that. What is my favorite color? 0, 1, 1, okay. Let's try to look at our debug and see, okay, why is that data not getting printed out correctly? Okay, we'll go here, console. We'll go to results, we want to see results. Click on favorite color, alright. Succeeded with response. So what is the response we get? We get poll ID, and then we get response is equal to pizza, okay? So what we want to do, that is the issue. We're trying to add option, or we're trying to make option our key, but option is not our key. Our key is equal to data of option, or let's do it this way. Alright. Option is equal to data at the index, and then for that object we want to take the response field. Okay. All right, and let's retry that. So option is not defined at line 35. Yeah, let. All right, let's try to do that. There we go. So we click, okay, what is my favorite color? Then we'll see, okay, pizza 3, pav bhaji 3, pani puri 3. So we go here to our beginning, we click on this, we see the results, so we see basically a list of poll titles. We click on the one we want, and then we'll see, okay, this is our dictionary object that we created, and what are the responses. So different things like that. Yeah, I still think there's some issues. Otherwise, like pizza showing up here. But yeah, so we did some debugging also, and we worked on adding more functionality. What we want to try to do in the next video is we want to add functionality for showing like a bar chart of our results. All right. Yeah. Thank you everyone for being patient. And well, this usually I try to not show the debugging in the video, but I feel like maybe that's also valuable. So I spent some time with that today too. But yeah. Thank you everyone. And yeah, next time.